Hey y'all, it's Stacey. Welcome back to the kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how to make my southern tomato pie. And you know what? There's no better way to feature garden fresh tomatoes than in this tomato pie. And it's actually pretty simple. Now, to start, I've got a 9-inch deep dish pie crust that I've blind baked. That's just partially baking it so we make sure that we don't get a soggy crust. I've got 2 cups of shredded mozzarella cheese here. To this, I'm going to add about 3/4 of a cup of mayonnaise. About 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. I'm just using the grated Parm out of the green canister. If you want to use shredded, if you want to use fresh, knock yourself out. I've got 3 cloves of garlic here. I'm just going to stir this together. Now what I did before is I have about 4 garden fresh tomatoes that I sliced pretty thinly and I layered those between paper towels. Now before I did that, I sprinkled them each with a little salt, because what that's going to do is it's going to pull out some of that excess moisture. That way we don't end up with a soggy pie. You're going to want to let that rest between those paper towels for at least 30 minutes. And then once we get ready to start putting this together, I'm going to blot these just a little bit more just to make sure that we can get as much moisture out of these as possible. Now, if you're watching your sodium content, you can rinse these off, but of course we're introducing moisture again, so I like to leave them just like they are right here. Over here, I've got about a 1/2 cup, roughly, of sliced green onions and about 8 leaves of fresh basil that I sliced pretty thinly. Now we're just gonna layer this together. I'm gonna start here with our tomatoes and just kind of cover the bottom of our pie plate. We're gonna do this in 2 layers of tomatoes and then 2 layers of our other ingredients. So you can see we're just kind of haphazardly throwing those in there. Then I'm gonna sprinkle about 1/2 of our green onions here, and about 1/2 of our basil. And we're gonna spread about 1/2 of our cheese mixture here and just kind of press this down. The best part about this recipe is that it doesn't have to be precise and it doesn't have to look pretty, because it's gonna taste delicious regardless, as long as you get everything in here. Coming back to our tomatoes, another layer here. I've got my oven preheated to 350 degrees, and you can kind of see how thinly I sliced those. Again, it's just a matter of personal preference. Pop these right on top. More green onions. More basil. Try to get that as evenly as possible. More of our cheese mixture. Right on the top. Kind of spreading this out a little bit makes it a little bit easier to spread evenly. Just kind of press that down. If we see a little of those green onions or a little of those tomatoes peeking through, it's going to work just fine. This is going to go in our oven for 35 to 40 minutes, just until everything's cooked through. It's nice golden brown, and I've got one done over here. Now, if you happen to notice that your crust starts getting a little dark, you can always shield it with some aluminum foil strips or a pie shield. You want it nice and golden brown just like this. Let this rest for about 10-15 minutes. Slice it up and it's ready to go. Folks, you can find this full recipe by heading over to the website at southernbite.com. Just visit the Simply Southern TV section right at the top. Y'all enjoy.
Mary, before we recorded that segment, I don't know that I had ever had tomato pie. See, in my mind, pies are supposed to be sweet. But once I got my mind wrapped around it, I thought it was great.
Now, that was a recipe for southern tomato pie, but did you know there's also a northern tomato pie?
You're kidding.
They call it a tomato pie, but it's a little more like pizza. It has a really thick crust and either no or very little cheese, and is served at room temperature. I've never had it, but Stacey says it's popular in places like Philadelphia and the state of New Jersey.
Well, to each his own. For the absolute best tomato pie, you have to use fresh tomatoes. And if you don't grow your own, visit sweetgrownalabama.org to find some near you. And what a coincidence, they sponsored today's recipe.
That's right. Now the time has come for us to run. Thank you for joining us today.
It's been a lot of fun looking back at some of the stories Melissa Bowman has brought us over the past 5 years.
We hope you'll be back with us again next week as we continue to tell the stories of the people who make Alabama great. I'm Mary Wilson.
I'm Kevin Worthington. We'll see you then.
Simply Southern is produced by the Alabama Farmers Federation and made possible with the support of these sponsors.